Today, we're looking at a blue ink by Monteverde Capri Blue. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. Now, there's timestamps down below so that you can skip around to the parts you're most interested in, but if you've got the time, I'd appreciate you checking out the entire video. You can also follow me over on Instagram, and if you're new here and like fountain pen inks, I would invite you to subscribe. I do a new ink review daily. In order to make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples. I then inked up this Pilot Metropolitan with a 1.0 stub. I wrote with it for a day and then used it to take the notes for this video. In order to have some standardization, I always use Clairfontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper in the first writing samples, although there is an additional writing sample with different papers later in the video. Now, let's look at the writing sample. I picked this ink up in sample form, so it came in a vial like this. And to keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's take a look at the Clairfontaine. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1, no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. The extra fine is the same tone as the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 8 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the extra fine and stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 12 seconds to dry. The scrubbies for both are showing us no real color variation, and we're not getting it. Tomoe River. No bleeding, minor Tomoe River ghosting. The 1.1 is no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. Extra fine is the same tone as the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade, and 10 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the extra fine and the stub. No feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 18 seconds to dry. Funny because the scrubbies for both do show us some color variation, but we're not getting any in the writing. Rhodia. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 is no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. Extra fine is same tone as the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 5 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the extra fine and the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 8 seconds to dry. Again, the scrubbies are showing us some color variation, although it's not in the writing. I agree with Vita. I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down and immediately put it into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And we see this is a good prime blue. It starts and works its way straight up, going from lighter to much darker. Now the one on the right, I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water. And we see that what is said about it being a good prime blue is not entirely true. We see a kind of turquoise color at the bottom that is pushing its way up a little bit. We see some water separation between that turquoise and that dark blue that makes this ink. It does make me feel that there should be more color variation than I get. Resistance tests are done to see how well this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it may be to clean from your pen. I let the smear dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, just to be clear, that capital H didn't blow out. I started to write an F and then wrote an H, and that's why it looks like a boxy A. But this held together very well, which I was quite surprised with. It would make me feel confident using it in a note-taking situation. Water is reactivating and lifting this off the page. Now we see that kind of turquoise color there on the bottom, but water is all that I needed to get this out of my pen. Pen flush does everything that water does and a bit more. With the same 30 seconds, you are really seeing the white of the paper coming through on that pen flush. So if water didn't do it, you know that pen flush will. 1/3 bleach solution you won't need, but it does completely obliterate this ink. I test ink viscosity or flow by using a tilt test, and I'll link that somewhere here. And for the inks I've tested, I have found an average viscosity of 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Put the data onto a bell curve or standard deviation for it to be easily understood. Monteverde's Capri Blue has a viscosity of 1.85, making this a wetter To find my average dry times, I use my writing samples done on Clairfontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. I average all of those. Now, for the inks I've tested, I found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Monteverde's Capri Blue has an average dry time of 10 seconds, making this a faster drying ink. Instead of finding inks that look like Monteverde's Capri Blue, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. So I went with a nice orange, Robert Oster's Tangerine. The second writing sample is done on Fabriano, Apica CD, and Northbooks paper. Here we're looking at Fabriano paper. Now we get no bleeding, no real ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is the same tone as the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, and 5 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the extra fine, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 7 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both do show us some color variation left to right, but as has happened before, there's none in the writing. How about Apica CD notebooks? No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1, no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. The extra fine is still the same tone as the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 4 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the extra fine and the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 9 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both show us really no color variation. Extra fine showing us some, but we don't get it in the writing. And Northbooks. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 is no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is the same tone as the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 2 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the extra fine and the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, and still 2 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us no color variation and we don't get any, and that is all that I have for the writing samples. So what do I think of Monteverde's Capri Blue? This puts down a very consistent tone on the page. There's no real shading, but it is vibrant all on its own. I really do enjoy using it. So what nib and pen give the best writing experience with this ink? I don't think it matters what you choose. In everything I used, I got the same tone of ink without shading on all papers from all pens. So here's dealer's choice. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, and if it's your first time here, I'm going to remind you, if you enjoyed it, subscribe. Thanks for watching.